Welcome to the Time to Talk podcast. I am Charles, and it is time to talk. A lot going on. This is the second episode of the series of the podcast that we have recently started here on YouTube, and we're looking to go on to Rumble as well. And you can also find us on X, and we'll be distributing to all the major podcast platforms over the next couple of weeks. So I just wanted to inform you of that. So subscribe here first if you haven't already done so. Yeah, there's a lot going on. One of the things obviously the debate is tonight. This is Tuesday, September 10th, and the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump is tonight. Exciting night, right, in politics. Probably the last debate they'll do. No audience, muted microphones for them, so I guess let's try to keep things in check at ABC, and we'll see how that works. We're going to get into more debate talk, but before I do that, I have a couple of things on my agenda that I definitely want to talk about. One of them, the first thing that stands out immediately that I wanted to come on and just start talking about right away, Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris. And not so much his endorsement of her, but her reaction to it, her being honored by his endorsement and claiming that there are small differences that, it's good that we're working together. This is nonsense. That's number one. And then I think everyone else's response and reply. I did a slight experiment, being a little cheeky on one of my social media pages, and I posted the photo of Cheney and Harris, and I said, "Look, I didn't want to talk politics today, but I'm wondering how this is going to be spun by the blue crowd, the all in on Kamala, I'm with her crowd, the Democratic, loyalist who just see this anointed candidate that, that was pretty much placed upon the American voter via a coup of the current president or whoever the current president is, whatever." I wanted to see how they were going to spin this. Like, what is that crowd going to do with Cheney? Like, are they looking at this like, yay, now we got Cheney, like some draft pick that somehow provides some sort of substance or some sort of value to the Harris campaign? I can't figure it out, because I think a lot of the voters that are being pandered to, the zombies I'd like to call them sometimes, that are just simply not paying attention, and they're being purchased, or they're being hypnotized, I would say, by the hype, right? The whole Kamala Harris thing. She's Beyonce. She's the next big thing. She was always a big thing, which is not true, right? She was totally unpopular and just whatever. I'm trying to figure out do people remember who Cheney is? Do you remember who this man represented in, back in the day in the Bush administration when they stole the election from Gore and Halliburton and the Iraqi war and the weapons of mass destruction? This was probably the only vice president that was technically president behind the scenes, and a very destructive president. The amount of Iraqi lives that were lost, the amount of money that we spent, nation building and doing XYZ with the taxpayers' dollars in other nations, and nothing came of it. This is all Cheney. This is Cheney. This is the warmongering Cheney. This is like the head of the whole thing. And now the Democrats, as far as I'm concerned, have gone full dark side. Like that moment in, Revenge of the Sith, whichever one it was, where Anakin becomes Vader. Is that full moment where he's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to go in all out, right? He lets Mace Windu die, and then he winds up going to murder a bunch of children in the Jedi Temple, which was terrible. This feels like that moment. This feels like that moment where they've gone full tilt. Like Cheney, Cheney is supporting, Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney are supporting Kamala Harris, the Democrats. The Democrats have truly lost their way. Now, saying all that, I also got accused of because I'm pointing out, especially in the first episode here that we put up, which was technically like a test episode, but that first episode, if you go back and watch it, it's on the YouTube page. I went in on Kamala Harris to a certain degree. It was more about information and where people are getting their information from. But it seems that I was accused recently of like, well, you putting all this stuff. What about the other guy? Everything you say about Kamala Harris leads to, well, what about him? He did this. And you forget that he's the one that almost took over the country and staged a military coup on the government and refused to give up power. And he did all these things, and he dropped, first of all, no, he didn't. That's number one. But number two, I understand your frustration with the idea that perhaps I'm not equitable in my condemnation of each particular party and their candidates right now. Trump. I don't have love for either one of them. One of the things that's motivated me to do this podcast is to get on here and discuss with you and discuss with others eventually as we have guests join us and have these healthy debates and conversations, is to just simply put information out without necessarily being biased, right? I'm not trying to bias you one way or the other. I just want to make sure you know the information. And I think what's critical is understanding this concept. Now, if I can put it in the most simple terms possible, if you know there's a monster here that's bad, it's been bad. We know this monster's teeth. We know what this monster smells like. We know what this monster does, right? And you're trying to say, we don't want that monster to get into the village. Okay, fine. Agreed, right? I'm not taking the monster side. However, if you currently have a monster living in your town that's doing all the things that you're hoping this monster will never do if he gets in your town, I feel it necessary, and I feel it I'm compelled to say that it's even more important. I warn you of the monster that's already in your house. It's already in your town. That's how I feel when it comes to the Democrats and Kamala Harris. It's not a personal thing. It's not a personal thing against Kamala Harris. It's not a personal thing against Joe Biden or women or the elderly or black women or Indian women. It's me telling you that if you're not aware of what the Democrats are doing in terms of how they are basically destroying democracy, have continued to do so, if you're not aware of it, find out. If you think I'm wrong, question me. Go into the comments, talk. Let's get discussions going. That's what I need to happen here. What I don't want you to do is just exhibit blind loyalty for no reason. You should know what's going on, what's happening to your constitutional rights, to your liberties, to your freedom, what's going on with censorship. You should understand these things. So when I say all of this, I don't really need, it's the same thing for Trump. It's the same thing. My only feeling on it is that he's currently not in the White House. I know we want to stop him from getting there. And we'll get more on that in a minute. But right now you've got a monster in there. And if you're not seeing that, I think it falls on me and others in alternative media, indie journalism, to the voices in this space to wake you up from the matrix. That's how I see it. Anyway, got a debate coming tonight. Before we even get into the debate, this will be the moment. This will be for the people who think I haven't been hard on Trump. Trump, speaking of independent media, alternative media, and these different sources, Trump was on Lex Freeman, my boy Lex Freeman. Shout out to Lex Freeman. I love Lex Freeman's podcast. Been watching it since the beginning. And I like his style and I like his guts. And I think he's a great interviewer and a really bright guy. And he had Trump on. And when I remember scrolling and seeing that episode was up, Donald Trump, it was instantly like, whoa, he got Trump on there? I got to see this. I didn't watch it right away. I waited. And then the other day I listened to this. And I was thoroughly disappointed because here's the deal. In the independent media space, alternative media, where you get different voices, objective voices, right? Where you're not getting the legacy media spin. You're not getting that biased. If we're in this space and we're fighting for freedom of speech and being able to vet people and have real in-depth conversations, which is what podcasts give us. They give us the ability to have people, these long-form discussions, right? Where you get much more from a candidate, from a person in a particular space that you're interviewing, whether it's a physicist or whether it's an economic strategist or something along those lines, or an actor or whatever it is. You're getting much more nutritionist, Peter Attia. You're getting much more detail than you would in a legacy media news clip on, ABC or CNN at 6 p.m. with Wolf Blitzer or whoever it is, right? Plus, they're totally biased. If they bring Kamala Harris on to CNN for an interview, it's a biased interview by nature. This is a corporation, legacy media. They have her interest in hand, the current administration at hand. So they're not going to hit her with hard. We saw that during the interview that she did with Dana Bash, which was whatever, a joke, right? Which was pre-recorded. It wasn't even live. So with Lex Freeman, I expected him, even if he's voting for Trump, to still hit Trump with legitimate concerns and questions to really get at him. And he didn't. He didn't. Now, to Lex's credit, it's really not his style. He's not a gotcha kind of guy. He's not getting people on his show so he can get them. He's not trying to do that. So I kind of have to say this, in a softer way. It's not necessarily his style in general, but I think with the stakes being what they are, and with him having Trump there, he should have gone a little deeper. That's all I'm saying. Otherwise, it just becomes a situation where you are pandering to the person you're already voting for, and we're not getting much out of it. And more important, and to the point of that interview, Trump sounded like a total imbecile, as he always does. So for all the people who think that I'm only claiming that Kamala Harris cannot speak off script, Trump is horrible. The more you listen, the more you're like, holy cow. Even if you're voting for him, Elon Musk, all these people who are supporting him because we believe that he currently is more anti-establishment than the current administration and the Democrats are, and what Kamala will bring to the table. Even if you think Trump is that guy, you can't possibly tell me that listening to him speak is actually interesting. It is like listening to a child speak. He didn't answer a single question in any real way, no substance whatsoever. Everything was a rambling thing to the point where he talked about Biden, how good he looked in a bathing suit and didn't look good in a bathing suit, and all these things. It was absolutely fascinating. If you haven't seen that interview, go ahead and watch that interview. And I'm telling you now, Democrat, Republican, whatever you are, MAGA, 100%, you watch that. Yeah, believe in your boy Trump if you want to, but still watch that and tell me you think that he gave interesting answers and has a real sense of anything. Anything. The guy knows nothing. So with that said, again, I'll reiterate, Harris, same problem. So getting into the debate for tonight, what do you think we're going to get? If either one of them are off script and off prompter, right? It's going to be like watching a couple of grade schoolers on a really dull playground having an argument. That's what this is going to be. Neither of them have the ability to articulate concepts, ideas, substantive answers, coming up with things, really articulating their visions. They do not have that unless it's scripted for them in front of them. They just can't do it. And I don't want anyone telling me that because Kamala Harris was an attorney general that she's intelligent. There's a difference between saying I went to law school, I passed a particular certification, the bar exam, to become a lawyer and then became a lawyer, and intelligence. They're not the same thing. Your degrees don't make you intelligent. Your ability to communicate, however, is a slight indication of how intelligent you really are. That's just my personal opinion. So I think tonight's going to be interesting. I think she's going to immediately attack him as a criminal. Again, we've got, 34 counts for that, felonies. It wasn't 34 things he did, people. So please wake up. Please don't do the whole thing. He's a criminal. It was the way it was all structured out, the actual fines and everything in the actual case. And everyone has admitted, including Republicans, MAGA Republicans have admitted that case, and Democrats have admitted, that case was ridiculous. That would not have been brought up in a non-election sort of year under political, the guise of some real thing that he did wrong. So yeah, she's going to go after him for, being a criminal and a degenerate and all these other things. And it is what it is. Look, I'm going to watch this. I'm looking forward to it. We're not going to do a live stream here. We're not set up for that yet. We are still developing the show and working on some things from a production standpoint and programming. But I will certainly try my best to get up an analysis tomorrow of the show, of the actual debate. So, leave comments below if you would like to. Let me know what your predictions are of the debate. I will tell you, I'll leave with this parting guidance or advice. Pay attention to the policies, right? It's really the most important thing, is looking at what are the economic, what are the fiscal policy, what are things happening outside of the rhetoric, outside of the typical thing you're going to hear normally from, this duopoly that we live in, where they're both going to claim economic reform. They're going to do something for the economy to help the little man. They're going to put this much money into housing. They're going to do this. They're going to cut taxes, which is always a scam. If you don't know that, just a small, quick example without going too far of a tangent, but Biden faced with the same situation when it came to increasing taxes on the rich or the corporations. It was supposed to bring it to 28% tax rate, and it ended up going back to 20% or 21%. And he basically reneged on his promise to the American public that he would raise the corporate tax to 28%. Never happened. Kamala, I believe, has done the same thing. She's claiming she's going to cut it down to 20% or whatever it is, and she's not going to do it. She's going to say it, and then once the time comes, it won't happen. Why? Why do I tell you this? Why do I tell you to specifically look at the fiscal and the policies that they're going to have economically? Because whoever gets in office understands something. BlackRock, for example, is going to has controlled all the economic fiscal policies that has taken place in the last few decades. Like, you need to know that. If you don't know that, that's fine. But pay attention. It doesn't really matter. Trump or Harris get in the office. You're going to have Trump's economic team, Harris's economic team, BlackRock, executives, their financial. This is corporate stuff. This is Wall Street related entities and people that are all connected, and they are all handling the fiscal policies and financial policies of the Harris administration. When she gets in there, they've already handled Biden. Her whole team economically is Wall Street people. You can't just think that she's going to get on stage, talk and tell you something about Main Street America and what she's going to do, when realistically she's in the pocket of these corporations and these Wall Street bankers. You have to know that. So I said, when you watch this, look for the substance, but be mindful of the rhetoric and pay attention to what real substantial answers are given, what's being laid out. Now, I know she's got some issues put up on her page. Finally, she's got some things she's taken a stance on. I've read through some of them. I'll probably discuss more of those in context tomorrow, as in relation to the actual debate and what she says about them. But, you know, frankly, I think we're in a heap of a mess regardless of who gets in office. So I just want to end on that note. So you know, I'm not, you know, I had somebody tell me that, well, if you're so vehemently against Harris, then you must be voting for Trump. And I said, no, that's not the case. I'm simply pointing out things as I see them. And one doesn't mean the other. That's it. We've talked. Until the next time, subscribe, stay tuned for more. If you want to listen to me talk about all this stuff and just dole out whatever information that I'm getting, I'm paying attention to, I'm sharing it with you. I'd like for us all to love one another, my black brothers and sisters, brown brothers and sisters, Latino, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, Muslim. I don't care. Trans, gay, I don't care. We just need to have conversation. We need to love one another. We need to figure all this stuff out as best we can without throwing each other into the hole and canceling one another and hating each other over things like politics. All right? Stick with me. Subscribe. Again, we'll be up on all the major podcast platforms soon enough, and I'll keep you abreast with all the links and all that stuff. So until then, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.